anybody that is actually watching this, is we're trying to stream
on
our YouTube over here, which is really our primary goal. We used to be much more complicated and streamed on multiple platforms. And with Kristen's schedule being so busy with everything she's doing right now, it's hard for her to manage multiple platforms at the same time for this. And we don't really need the stress. We just wanted to get back to having fun when we're doing these live shows, because we want to encourage everybody to be creative and to not worry about making masterpieces. Let's face it, most of us probably are not going to be in the Louvre or the MoMA or something like that. We just need to get into that creative zone. And that's where we started the video a few minutes ago, is after our long breaks from creativity, and we're out of our habit, the holidays happen, family things can happen. And I have these tricks and tips that I like to use. And if the coffee in the morning, sitting in the rocking chair, my mother's rocking chair, and analyzing the pieces from yesterday doesn't do it for me quite, I'll just grab pieces of paper, scraps, for example, and I'll start doing some gestural stuff, just letting it flow. I'm not really trying to make anything, but a lot of times my subconscious will bring that, whatever it is, out into the forefront, and I'll realize, hey, that's it. And that'll trigger my whole day's worth of work, or even an entirely new series. And that just happened to me recently as we were coming off of the holiday break around here, that I realized I really enjoyed working wet into wet with these, or I shouldn't say wet into wet, it's dry into wet, because soft pastels are dry. But working into that surface, and I really enjoyed the gradients that started that way. So I'd been doing this for years, doing the sketching in the morning, just not even specific to object or representation. And it really was helping me in my daily practice. Well, that's led into a series. So my point is, just start doing something in the morning, anything. It doesn't have to, don't have an objective if you're trying to get over your creative block, and you'll be surprised how quickly that can come about. The other thing is, if I have a lot of junk drawers, if you have junk drawers for your art, I have it all over the place, down in these lower areas, a lot of old material, and I'll grab a drawer of it, bring it out, and I'll just start working with it. If I've got old paint on brushes, maybe I'll take that and I'll do some stuff with that. Let's see, this is actually an oil paper paint, and I might just do some gestures again with this. Or I might try and outline a figurative piece and then fill it in with some other things, other colors that I have. And you'd be surprised how just letting yourself play again is going to really help you get back into that feeling, that creative zone, especially if you haven't been doing it for quite a while. So these are all little different colors, some Amsterdam acrylics that I have watered down because I've used them so much. As I go, it gets lower and lower and lower, and eventually I just add some water and medium into it, shake it up, and I use that to do a different style work. And you can see already that's really blending beautifully. And I'll usually do this on some sort of a board that I know I'm going to convert into a painting, or analyze it and see where I go with it. I don't know if that makes sense.
To our TikTok followers, yeah, we are in the United States. I know a lot of you are in the EU, but we are on YouTube. You can join us over there.
Yeah, and Kristen's here, as you clearly just heard.
Yeah.
So we're talking today about tips and tricks, things that I have found to get going. Another way is if you have scraps of paper, you can start to mess around with that. I have this painting that I did a while ago and I haven't liked it. So feel free to rip your paintings up. This is another fun practice. Rip it up, start laying it out, get some matte medium or any kind of an adhesive, and you can start to lay that out and create some structure, create something visually interesting. And then you can look at it and go, oh, that's terrible, and just keep going. Or you can have a sudden discovery that triggers your entire day of work. Now, some of you may have commission work that you're doing. So I would use the same process for my commission work. I don't necessarily want to jump into the commission when I walk into the studio. I'm going to come in with my wonderful coffee, thanks to the Jura coffee maker. They don't actually sponsor us, by the way. I just really love the coffee maker, especially in one of my mugs that I make, right?
Oh, yeah.
Cheers.
Let's try this box again.
Coffee.
Won't
So,
shake so badly this time.
So that's what I do even when I'm doing the commission work, and I don't do much anymore. I don't do commission work anymore. And so junk drawer. Let's see, what else do I have? I have this as a lovely little orange that I might use. There's not much pigment left in that. But as I go on my practice sheet, I have in the background, you'll see other pieces of works all around the studio, dozens of works in progress. As I'm doing this, I might suddenly have that trigger over there on that piece, and I go, oh, that's it. And I'll run over there, make the mark that I needed to have revealed because I'm practicing. If you can't do the daily practice, then some of these tricks are really good to get going. Start blocking it in. Another way I like is really good music. Kristen is one of her big things, right? Music.
Yeah, I like my playlist when I start creating.
So you're primarily a writer.
Yes.
I mean, you do a lot of video work, and
I do video work for a job and for you, but my real outlet is writing.
so she's been working a lot, and she found a new favorite that really helps to trigger that writing process,
Yeah,
right?
Hanai Rani, although I know I'm mispronouncing it, she's Polish.
As Kristen says, she speaks French. What did you say?
Oh God, when I try and speak French, because I'm trying to learn, I sound like an American with a Spanish accent attempting French because I learned Spanish first in migrant camps. So it's a pretty Mongol French I speak.
So I worked on French many years ago, and I'm trying to relearn it, as well as German. And I'm also adding in several other languages just because I think it helps. And this helps with my creativity too, is that mind, challenging that mind, increasing the flexibility of your mind on a daily basis, challenging it. That helps carry into your daily practice in the studio. Whether you're a 2D artist, whether you're a writer like Kristen, whether you're a musician, anything like that. I think no matter what you do, even if you're a doctor, for example, or scientist, start a daily practice of it. Just get some paper and just do some gestural stuff without intent, without that kind of object-oriented thing overshadowing your practice, right? Because if you're worried about the object, you're not having fun in the process. I'm looking at some of my random things back here and how we can play with it today. Some of the things that are getting kind of low in my stock. So this is how I would start if I'm just starting something that I didn't really have an intent. I'm just find whatever is leftovers and start putting it on there and see what happens.
Yeah, you don't have to have like high-end quality supplies. You can just start making something, loosen up. If you are just dealing with some blocks and you just want to open up, use something you don't care a whole heck of a lot about. Just get in there and start making some moves.
Yeah, you don't have to be using your expert series or go and get the expert series. Although, I'm sure that our various suppliers would love it if you use their expert series. But the main thing is we want you to get hooked on the process. Yes. I want you to be creative. I want you to feel that feeling, that tickle up through the spine and in the top of your crest of the head, and in that release of the energy. It's a meditative process, but it's also invigorating. And we want you to feel that. We want you to go and feel that. So I'm just kind of making some forms. I didn't have any kind of intent. I just wanted to show you how I get going. Now, last week we did a piece, and it's down here, and I may or may not address that today. Because one of the questions I get is, how do you finish the work? And unfortunately, in a half hour, it's not a lot of time to cover that. No. Mostly I'm trying to kickstart you, get you going. We will do some future shows on finish work, but it's frankly not as exciting.
We will probably also do a pre-recorded version of that.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm enjoying is this watered down with medium and a little bit of water. Acrylic paint that I've put in here is blending with the soft pastels. I've got some white gouache I just kind of put on there as I was chatting with you. And those things are creating some really neat effects here that are inspiring me to move forward. And that will carry into the other work, the serious work that I'm trying to finish, the hundreds of paintings that are stored around the studio over there. and we're not going to address the oils back here, the oil paints. I have a lot of markers I like to use. I like the Pantone markers a lot. Most of them are hiding somewhere. So we'll cover that another time. Let's get a little more of this color. This is one of my favorite colors. I never really liked browns, but I absolutely love the burnt sienna. I had to read the label because I couldn't remember what my favorite new color was. I'm so excited to be painting today.
It was nice to get in the studio on a day off.
Yeah, I was really excited because I didn't have to take the kiddo to school this morning.
Oh, we love taking him to school, except the wake up process is a lot.
It's a lot. He doesn't wake up. He's not a morning person. And frankly, I wasn't either until I hit my 40s, I guess it was. Late 40s?
Yeah. Late
40s. But he definitely takes after my mom did, with the... So we have some fun colors. Just, again, play. I want you to try and play as much as you can. Challenge yourself with that box of art materials that you bought aspirationally or someone gave you because they had a bunch of extras. I get a lot of random materials that are given to me over the years. And some of it goes back to my mom's era, that back in the 60s. And I'm still digging through those. I've got the crepas from way back. This is another reason that I wear gloves, because some of these older things that we have,
safety wise,
there might be some issues.
Yeah.
But this is all old stuff that I have. Now, interestingly, the oil pastels have always been problematic for me, and I'll tell you why. Because they don't really set up. They're made with like a mineral oil, and they never really set like real oil paints will. But now I guess, sorry, I'm trying to get used to it. Now I guess at Royal Towns we have a fixative for oil pastels.
Yeah.
A fixative varnish, something like that. I'll get some and we'll play with that later, because if nothing else, I need to get rid of some of these oil pastels that I have from 1960 something.
Yeah.
Lots of watercolor. I have these powdered things, different powdered micas and such that we've been collecting. But again, pull those out, play with them a little bit. If you're going to use any powdered stuff or sprays, make sure you wear your respirators. For the purposes of the show, we're not, but at the moment, but we should be. Add a little more white. Let's just see what happens when we do this.
Welcome in, everybody joining us this morning.
I'm just trying to see what other little random stuff I had. Go for a walk. Kristen walked in when I was making notes in the house, and she says, "So that's your to-do list for the day, huh?" Because I turned the page. Go for a walk. Yep, that's my to-do. I've lost my. Here it is.
Looking for the big one, huh?
Yeah, and I don't know. Again, this is a lot of how I want you to just make stuff. Just try and make something. It doesn't have to be a something. Just start doing. And that'll open up. I don't care if you're professional. I don't care if you've been doing this your whole life. It's very easy to get into a routine and the demands of making. I know some of you out there, they're friends of mine that are professional artists, and you've been doing this forever. And I'm afraid some of you might get stuck once in a while. And so I think it's really good. I do, certainly. I'm really enjoying this kind of thing it's a 5-foot board I'm working with today. I've been wanting to do a 5-foot painting. I thought, what better way to get started on something that I've been putting off than to do it right online in front of you all.
Just letting our other followers know where we are right now.
So I started again with some different papers that I had laying around, and I just did some gestures on them. I love watercolor paper, especially 100% cotton. It's a lot of fun to do this and then build off of that. I try to do some traditional watercolors now and then. And that usually ends up very abstracted because I'm an abstract artist. That's what I do. Traditionally trained, but an abstract artist. I'm trying to think what other little tricks I do over the years here. I'm looking for some gold. I don't know why, but I want some gold. There's some gold. No, that's raw sienna. I can read. That's okay. Oh, it's over here. I pre-laid it out.
Oh, thanks, Maggie.
Hi, Maggie.
Yeah, you can cover them with matte or gloss medium.
What's that?
The pastels.
Yeah. So a little something with the soft pastels, not oil pastels. Remember I mentioned earlier, those are a different animal. The soft pastels, you're going to want to fix it very, very, very lightly. Otherwise, you'll just kind of blow it apart or you'll make little marks in it. Same with your watercolors. I use Degas fixative from Spectra Fix. This is the final fix, which is the last one. Continuous spray bottle. Wear your respirator, even though this is probably one of the safer methods of fixing your art.
Always remember, anything in your lungs besides actual air is not good for you, even if it's organic.
Yeah. It's still debris in your lungs.
Yeah, keep that in mind when we're working in the studio.
And we're particularly cognizant of this because of my lung issues. And I've lost, there's the kiddo.
Hey,
Hi, kiddo.
What's up?
I've lost a lot of work time and other things due to my lungs. And in large part because I didn't take care of them when I was younger. But I am now.
Oh, they were just delivering the package. Yeah,
So
it's closed for you. No toy. I know.
hi, son. It's a live show. You never know what's going to happen. So
Might also be your sheets.
put some gold on there. So an interesting little update on the studio. If you go back to our old videos, Kristen has a shot here in a lot of them, and she's shooting from here. And so I spent days redoing this whole back section here, organizing all of my art supplies, all the supplies from Royal Talents, from Cobra to Rembrandt to Van Gogh and Pantone and all these others, Amsterdam acrylics. And then when we started the shows up last week, she said, "I'm going to shoot from a different location."
Well,
it's highlighting all of my junk ones over here, my junk drawers, which is why I got inspired to kind of do this today.
In my defense, he said I could make the show simpler, which meant one camera, and this is the best spot. And this is where we are.
Uh-huh.
As Sheldon says, this is my spot.
This is now the spot, which means I have to change my spot. And then, of course, Hugo's work zone is over there. You might see him in the background where he paints and does his thing. So we have our own little workstations. This, I don't even know what this is. You know what this is, Kristen?
Fabric paint?
This is fabric paint that I have left over.
I recognize that from back in my puff paint sweater days in the 90s. I used to make so many of those. It was a lot of fun. Anybody else remember those? Little puff paint and little squirt bottles?
Like I said, today's about kind of challenging yourself creatively. And one of the ways is to go find the junk drawer where you kept all your stuff. And then you can go back over it later with some of your expensive gear if you want, or you don't, because it's about that practice that's important. Get yourself going. Just start it. Just start doing stuff. Right? Right. So let's just kind of move that around. It's becoming abstract landscape. Happens every time this year.
Ugh.
This time of the year for me. She always says that.
My least favorite series that you do, honestly.
In my defense,
Yes.
I miss the green at this time of year.
The hot glue gun. Let's go find it.
It's buried back here, kiddo. And that extension cord for the hot glue gun is over there. That one that I was trying to hook up your stuff with earlier. But I can hand that to you. Hot glue guns down here. Don't glue your fingers together.
All right.
He's very good with
Plug in
that.
your glue gun.
We've been doing a lot with different tools and practices with him, encouraging the process of creating without really worrying about an object.
Here you go. You're all set.
For me,
Have fun.
still, it's one of my most important things to do. Before I forget, like I did previously, the Grand Marais Art Colony, and maybe on the recorded one, we'll put a link in there somewhere. I have a 3-day workshop over July 4th, and we're going to talk about in depth how to create or get yourself out of the creative quagmire that you might be in. Create some abstract art, have some fun. We're going to talk
shore
about
of Lake Superior.
on the great shore of Lake Superior, and we're going to see the fireworks, I think, right there from Grand Marais. It'll be a lot of fun. A lot of artists will be around, and it's intensive. So 3 days intensive means we get to cover the beginning, the middle, and the end of the process. And that, I think, is why I am so excited about it. We don't get to, on the shows, discuss a lot of the finishing techniques. And frankly, it's not very exciting most of the time. It's a lot of detail work with pencils and acrylic markers and things like that.
It'll be fun. I still have to explain to my boss why I won't be in our retail location in a tourist hotspot over the 4th of July weekend. But I'll get to that bridge when I need to.
See, I'm feeling a little bit closed on my creativity. So I'm going to get my random pencil I just picked up. Oh, that's kind of fun. But you can see we're starting to develop some very interesting shapes, some nice color combinations I might not have normally done, highlighting some areas. And I can go back. I can put this aside. If this was a typical morning, I could set this aside or leave it here. I could walk over to my other areas, the works that are in process. I have a series of 2-foot or 3-foot by 4-foot pieces, very large, that are delving into some representational, that go into some abstract representational and straight up abstract work. So I'm looking at evolution of these pieces. It's a lot of soft pastels, worked in with a little bit of acrylic. I'll probably bring in some of the oils at some point too.
Welcome in, everybody who's joining us on the platforms. It's nice to have you here
That's
today.
the Amsterdam ink. You know, we have these. I can't find them now. The Ecolinas. Let me see what else I have in the junk drawers here. Here's some stuff from way back. Some art crayons. These are kind of fun to do. It's kind of a waxy based. I can't remember the exact combo, and it probably varies from brand to brand. You can buy a lot of brands with these. They're great for highlighting things, filling in areas. They're water soluble even after they dry, although they're a little difficult to get up sometimes. So you can start to work those in. Again, just randomly from some of the old drawers down here. Oh, that's a fun color. Let's throw this in. I do work with a lot of color in general, but when I do the shows with you all, I try to do a lot of color because it's easier to see on the screens.
It is, but it's funny because one of my favorite creators is the sad beige lady.
The sad beige. Oh yeah.
Line of children's clothing.
Yeah, you showed me a few. Play with other tools. I'm not going to do the sprays, but you can do, if you're do any of the art sprays or you do the acrylic sprays, things like that, wear your mask, but you can then do that too and start to lay some structure over the top. I'm not going to do that because none of us are wearing masks today. Stamps are another fun way to get things moving. It's all back here in the junk drawer section. Let's see if we can make this something happen here with this. Oh, the other side is usually what I use. See if it does anything. That's kind of hard to see, but if I do this, or I do this, really don't like that at all.
No, I don't either.
So don't panic on that. We can
just
scrape it down,
loose.
start over. But look at the underpainting is still there. Oh, my notebook is all covered now. So the notebook. So now we kind of have a fresh start to work on again. This random stuff here we can fill in
Welcome everybody just joining us this morning, and we are talking about getting through some creative blocks and how you can do that in your studio.
Thanks for the update.
Yeah, well, we've got some new people who just joined us, so.
Yeah. So today we've covered a few things, random sketching, get your sketchbook out, just any kind of paper. I don't care. It could be newspaper. It could be an old book that's nobody wants anymore. There's a few artists. There's one artist in town that works and draws in these old books, uses it at the ground.
Yeah, I've bought a few of those for Harper over the years.
They're pretty neat.
They are.
So I just scraped that down because I wasn't grooving with what was there. But I do like kind of what's happening on the underside of some of this. And our son is over there creating with some glue, it looks like. We're open to questions too.
Yeah, anybody has any questions about
if you're having a hard time getting going, or the door is open.
Oh, it is
a little
correct.
bit.
Let's go close that. Because it's what?
It's -1 degree.
-1 degree Fahrenheit here today. Move to Duluth, he said. It'll be fine, he said.
Well, I was expecting to have a little more snow than this. That's also true.
We love it here. I'm
We
just
do love
teasing.
But it is cold this time of year. So here's that piece. Again, I really enjoyed what was happening with it. And if I want to work it further, I try to work actually again into wet surface. So I would wet it down. And I do this with the acrylic too, and the watercolor. I really enjoy the effect of working on a wet surface, regardless of the material. Even my oil paintings, I'll work into the wet. By that, I mean, I have water solubles from Cobra, which I use because I've tried to eliminate all solvents from the studio. I had to because of my lungs. And it's just, Hugo works in here and it's safest to do that. But if I don't do it right into the water, which sometimes cannot be good, we have various medium mixes that I'll use and thin it out just like a traditional oil paint, beginning of an oil paint. So again, a little bit of spritz.
Welcome in, everybody just joining us this morning.
Get some abstract pieces. And if you want to see some of the other work that I've done, please feel free to visit the various social media. We're really going to focus on YouTube right now.
Yep.
But we're
on YouTube.
We're on YouTube. But what I would like to say is that what I was trying to say is go to my website, She was trying to stop me from What's that from? That's from that one. Oh, movie reference. Fifth Element.
Oh, you weren't supposed to give him the answer.
Oh, sorry. I gave the answer to it.
I ran into somebody recently who shares a very similar sense of humor and whatnot, and has never seen Zoolander.
Oh my goodness.
I about fell off my chair.
Because you were just shocked?
Yes. I was like, how?
Or because you weren't well balanced in your work chair?
Oh, well, there's that too. It's broken. But I was like, why and how?
Yeah. So, and if anybody is here from the show before we took the hiatus, there's at least one movie reference per. I'm sorry. Now I'm kind of getting into this little water. See, we started this at the beginning of the show. It's just a random kind of piece, and I set it aside. I was just kind of doing this while talking to you, and I set it aside. And then that was drawing me more than this big piece that I was playing with. And see where this leads me. And I really am liking it already.
I know that David hasn't mentioned this, but one of the ways that I also find it easier to get into a zone is to start a puzzle.
Yeah, she's got puzzle things she's into.
It just kind of shifts your brain into a different space.
Well, that's part of it too. We were talking, go for a hike. I used to go for a drive when I didn't have kiddos.
Go for a hike.
And then
moving meditation, yoga.
Anything that gets you kind of in the zone, because it's a very similar zone, really. But if you're like me and your daily practice of art is ultimately to, I'm sorry to say, make money. A hard fact, I'm trying to make some money while I do this. Then in that case, you're going to be needing all the different tricks to do it. And sometimes you just need to find something else that's similar process.
Yeah.
For me, cross-country skiing's a big one. Getting out and getting some laps in. Except right now it's really difficult because we don't have enough snow in Duluth, Minnesota. I have to go get on the man-made stuff. I'm really enjoying this little sketch piece.
Let me just lift this up so people can see exactly what's going on here.
Somebody just told me if you ever need to jazz a piece up, just add some red. This is at one of the painting groups this week.
Just add some red.
Yeah, just get some red. Put it in there somewhere. I'm going to do that right here. Jazz that with some red.
I know we had a meeting this week and somebody literally said put a bird on it. And I was like,
Put a bird on it.
No.
Oh, that's from something too, isn't it?
Portlandia.
Portlandia.
Yeah.
Oh, second reference. TV reference this time. So really, really having fun with this. I'll set this aside.
Yeah, can you hold it up a little bit for our
I will. It's going to drizzle. Oh, it's drizzling. Put that over there.
Don't jiggle, jiggle.
Careful there. So we had this big piece going. And if I have old paint markers, I might use those too. And I'm just trying to see what other kind of stuff do I have to get me going.
We've gone over a half hour, but I'm just letting it go because we're all having fun.
So this is just sidewalk chalk. And I made some really great paintings with sidewalk chalk and working onto a wet surface, especially Hugo and I working together. And you do need quite a bit of moisture to kind of dissolve the chalk. And let's face it, this is not great high pigmented stuff. It's not like a Rembrandt soft pastel or any of the other high-end ones. But you can get some really great, and it just gives you some freedom because it's well, let's face it, it's cheap. It's cheap to use. And I especially like the white one that they have. Just sidewalk chalk.
Yeah, you know what? If you want to get loose and you don't have a bunch of surfaces to get loose on, go take it to the sidewalk.
Yeah, exactly. Make some sidewalk art. All right, I
Brighten
made
up the
some
neighborhood.
gestures with that. Let's see if I have any white. The white chalk doesn't hang around very long. But I do have some white acrylic. It's thinned out. Let's put that on there and see what happens with that. We'll work that around. What else? What other color should we throw in? Well, let's just move that around for now. Get a big old palette knife. Big round. One of the ones my mom had. Kind of getting that vertical. And you'll find every material you work with, this is what I find anyway, will actually alter my style. But yet, anybody that looks at my stuff there's a consistent style, consistent process, there we go, that I do. And it'll come out in some way. But what is nice is if you're challenging yourself with a material you haven't played with much, take a class, for example, in oil paints. This is another way that I really like. Take a class in something that you normally don't do. Traditional watercolor, I'm going to do some of that this summer myself.
Oh yeah, you joined a watercolor society.
Yeah, and I have literally hundreds of tubes of watercolor because I've never really done it. I've always been kind of reluctant to. I don't know why exactly, but I have
That's
been.
delicate. There's also like a culture of normative values maybe in that medium.
Maybe. There's certainly any art material, there's going to be traditionalists. You're going to run into that. I'd be cautious about getting too wrapped up in that. I think it's good because I do think it's good because it can give you guidelines to work within, a context for your practice. And I think that context, that structure does help, just like your daily practice. You go in at this time every day. It's like every author Kristen's ever talked about. The only reason they succeeded is because they went in the same day, every day, same time rather, every day, and they wrote. They just wrote. And 90% of what they wrote or whatever was really junk. And the same goes for visual artists, really, unless you're maybe one of the more traditionally oriented where you're working on one painting. Particular oil painting can be very particular for hundreds of hours. That's a different sort of practice that I'm suggesting for most of you. But even if you do that, okay, I'm sure many of you that are working like that, you go and you do some sketching, you do some quicker stuff to keep, kind of the juices flowing in your head. And that's important to do, even if you're doing a more traditional approach.
All right, guys, we're going to sign off here in a few minutes, but I want to ask if anybody has any questions as we wrap up today. If not, that's okay. Always just put them in the comments later, and we'll respond when we can.
I'm actually going.
Or anybody has any suggestions on how they loosen up in their studio?
Yeah, I wish somebody could tell me. I could use some more suggestions. And by no means have the things that I've suggested today. I have a lot of different ways, because what I find the older I've gotten, sometimes it takes a little more to kick my behind into gear in the studio. Things come up, affect your mental practice, your daily practice of art, and it helps to have a lot of tools in your toolbox to keep creating, to get into that wonderful, wonderful zone of making art. And I hope you all have a fun time painting. And we're going to see you next week, because
you're on YouTube, maybe.
YouTube, because we all want to share creativity. Come paint with us. Come explore with us. We'll see you next time. I'm going to keep painting. We'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.